What's up, guys? This is Chris here from East Coast PC, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about NVIDIA's upcoming launch of their RTX 4000 series of graphics cards and the egregious pricing that they decided to give these graphics cards. And they are MSRPs. That is just the starting price, folks. That is not the what most of these cards will be going for on retail shelves as far as the partner models. The Founders Edition should be MSRP, but as far as the partner models, most of them are going to be higher. There'll probably be some MSRP cards at launch. Then they'll dry up and you won't ever see no more cards at that MSRP unless sales are very bad and there's just no demand in the market, which hopefully the prices will stay low. But what we're going to be talking about today mainly, guys, is the RTX 4080 16 gig and of course what they're calling the RTX 4080 12 gig, which really should have been a RTX 4070 or RTX 4070 Ti. And we're going to explain what's going on with the dies, how even though it costs a lot more to manufacture with TSMC's 5nm family, especially the 4N process that was made, or it was a 4nm process, but it was optimized specifically for NVIDIA. And we're going to talk about how even though that cost a lot more money, these die sizes are a lot smaller. We're going to compare like the 104 die of this generation to last generation, show y'all how it is literally like 100mm squared smaller, and how there is absolutely no way that they should be charging these prices for these cards. That's the whole reason they called it the 4080 12 gig, to try to get away with selling it for $899. But what happens down the road when the rest of the family goes to get released? That's what it just creates so many problems. It is total bullcrap that they thought they could get away with this, that they're trying to get away with this. Hoping and praying they don't get away with it, but it's really absolutely disgusting that this card is called a 4080 12 gig with a MSRP of $899, and the die is literally 25% smaller than last generation. So now that I'm done rambling there, before we get started, if there's anybody who is not subscribed to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, drop a like, comment, do all that good YouTube stuff. We appreciate each and every one of y'all so much. So without further to talk about here, let's get started. Alright guys, so the first thing we are going to do is start out with this egregious card that they are calling the 4080 12 gig. And I'm going to be putting all of this on the screen for you guys so that as we're going over it, you can read all of this and see all of this for yourself. I got almost all of this information from Tech Power Up GPU database. And while every single specification, such as memory speed of the 4080 12 gig, has not been officially confirmed, basically all the die sizes, we know all of those to be accurate and all of that good stuff, where I wouldn't be putting them in this video. So to start out, what I'm going to do, guys, is take y'all back to last generation. Now, in the standard RTX 3070, the GA104 die was used. So obviously the 102 dies get used in the biggest cards, like they use that in the 3080 Ti and cut down versions in the 3080, and of course the 3090 Ti and 3090. Well, this time they took this 104 die, and basically what they did was they made it a lot smaller than they normally would have. So they actually they made a 103 die. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes when we talk about the 4080 16 gig, the true 4080. But they made a new die called the 103 die for that. So that's where some of the confusion is coming in. This 104 die from last generation that was used in the RTX 3070 was 392 millimeters squared. Okay, it had 17.4 million transistors, manufactured on Samsung's 8nm process. Like I said, it was basically a 10nm process, maybe a little bit better, but it was not a good process, and the cards, NVIDIA paid for it with the quality of their chips. But with that being said, the launch price was $499. Now, of course, how screwed up the market was last year, for so much of the life cycle of those cards, the prices were just absolutely insane. But as far as launch MSRPs, when NVIDIA plans on making their margins, what's the lowest we can sell it at to get the margin that we want and all that good stuff, $499 was the starting price. Now, while it was very hard for partners to hit that price and still make a profit without making a crappy card, or a card that's like, you know, basically bare bones, the bare bones requirement for that SKU, while it's harder for them to make money, it's definitely not hard for Nvidia to make money, because there is no middleman. They are just selling you, building the cards themselves and selling them to you, and that's part of the problem and part of why EVGA is no longer with us, sadly. Now, like we said, guys, 392 millimeters squared on the RTX 3070. So now we're going to flip over right here and look at the new AD 104 die that is going to be used in the RTX 4080 12 gig that they're calling. And I keep saying they're calling it because it's just absolute insane to me that they pushed it this far. Now, this die is literally 295 millimeters squared. Okay, that is 97 millimeters squared smaller than last generation 104 die, almost 100 millimeters smaller. So if you start with the last die, it's almost exactly 25% smaller than last generation. So even though this new process does cost more, the TSMC 4N process, it costs substantially more to manufacture these chips on that process. As you can see, guys, the dies themselves are smaller, like substantially smaller. It's not like 20 millimeters squared or anything like that. This is substantially smaller. So what do? They literally almost doubled the price, $899. Well, they say to themselves, how can we get people to pay $899 for this card? Oh, okay, well, we got a great idea. We'll just call it the 4080 12 gig. Now, one other thing that I did not mention, guys, is this only has a 192-bit bus. The 104 die from last generation had a 256-bit bus. Now, that right there, it costs more money to make. That's another thing that saves them money on this die. You have less memory controllers. The whole memory subsystem is smaller. So obviously that makes a die cheaper to make as well. That's a very, very, very big point to make. The die is smaller. It has a smaller memory bus. Makes it cheaper to make, even though its overall cost is going to be up because, like I said, the process does cost a lot more. That's just the name of the game for using a cutting-edge process technology like NVIDIA is using this time. But by them going up to $899, like I said, that is, if they'd have went for $1,000, that would have been a full doubling in price. Then they got pretty close to it for $899. So these cards ain't going to launch until sometime next month. But what I'm thinking, guys, I think that most of these cards will probably be, the partner cards will probably be $950. And I'm not talking about the few that they sell on launch day that are not the OC variant, that are clocked a little bit lower. I'm talking about the cards that will be available for basically the whole life cycle of this generation, or as long as they sell this card. And that is $950 or even $1,000. I'm sure there'll be some people to charge over $1,000 for these cards. And I think the performance is said to be somewhere probably around the 3090 Ti. But the thing is, it's probably still going to underperform that 3090 Ti in a lot of situations where you're trying to play at a higher resolution, because it's got the memory bandwidth of this card. And that's one of the specifications that's not 100% confirmed, because as far as I know, and I have looked everywhere, but I don't know that the memory speed has actually been confirmed by NVIDIA for both of the 4080 cards. The memory speed is 21 gigabits per second for the 4090. That is confirmed. But I do think this will be 21 gigabits per second as well. At least that's what they're saying here. And the memory bandwidth, if that's the case, is 503.8 gigabytes per second. That is literally half of what the 3090 Ti was. So even though this architecture's got more cache that's going to handle so much of the lifting of the memory subsystem and feeding the cores what they need to give you high performance, I still think there's going to be a whole lot of situations where I would rather have a 3090 Ti than this card right here. Probably more times than not, you would probably rather have that if you were playing at a high resolution such as 4K, or like me on my 38-inch ultra wide, which is 3840 by 1600. We're gonna have to wait for reviews and see. That's something we just don't know. But what we do know for sure is that this pricing is egregious. $899 for a starting price, and I am telling everybody, if I were you, there is absolutely no way that I would buy this card. There is so many other good options on the market. You got 3070. If you're going to spend this type of money and you can get a 3090 Ti for that price, I would probably do that. Like I said, wait for reviews. We don't know exactly what's going to happen with this card, but for that amount of money, it's just a terrible value, period. Definitely wait and see what AMD's got coming. While I'm very excited about the 4090, we're going to talk about that at the end of the video, and I'm going to try not to go too long about this. The other two cards are, the pricing is just terrible. This card, more than any of them, in my opinion, the pricing is just so bad. I don't know of any way that I can recommend this card at that price. Hopefully AMD comes in, they have something that's good value, that competes with that in performance, but hopefully it's substantially cheaper. We'll just have to wait and see for that. But that is our take here at East Coast PC on that card. Egregious pricing. Is extremely greedy what they're doing, and we'll talk a little bit more about what they're doing and getting away with. We're the ones suffering for it, and they're literally bragging to their investors about how much they can get away with charging, how much they can charge us for these graphics cards and get away with it. So that's the point on the RTX 4080 12 gig, if anybody wants to call it that, or the fake 4080. I'm gonna just call it the fake 4080 from now on. But that takes care of that card. I highly recommend do not buy this card, period. End of story. Unless something magically changes between now and the launch of this card. So now that that's out of the way, we're going to talk about the RTX 4080 16 gig and why this card may be a little more interesting than the one or the garbage that we just talked about. Alright guys, now that we got most of the garbage and disgust out of the way about the $899 fake 4080, let's talk about what hopefully we can call the real 4080 of this generation, what NVIDIA is calling the 4080 16 gig card. Now, just for some context here guys, how much things have changed and how much money that they are trying to wring out of us. As I have said earlier in this video, this TSMC 4N process that they're using now is a whole lot more expensive to manufacture on than that Samsung 8 nanometer that they used last generation. But with that being said, I just want to give y'all a quick little look at the difference in die sizes here. Now, what they did this generation is they created a new 103 die. I told y'all earlier that we were going to talk about that. The new 103 die is basically something in between the 102 die, which has been used for Titans and 2080 Ti's and 3090s and 3090 Ti's, all of the top tier and like true enthusiast class cards. And like with the 20 series, we used a 104 die for the 2080 and the 2080 Super. Well, part of the reason we saw like the 70% game and raster performance when we moved to the 30 series was because NVIDIA jumped to the 102 die for the next generation. They used a lot bigger die. So just to give y'all some context, okay, this die here, the AD103 die, this thing has 9,728 CUDA cores, okay, and it is only 379 millimeters squared. Now we're going to flip over and look at the 102 die from last generation that they used in the 3080. Okay, it's 628 millimeters squared. Now it only had, where is it at on this one? 8,704 CUDA cores. Now, all of you know, or most of you that are probably watching this video know that the die that was used in the 3090 and 3090 Ti was also the 102 die. Well, those were variants that came out either perfect, almost perfect, and what happens is when they make multiple SKUs off of one die, what they will do is if part of the dies, say the die is 15% damaged or the die is only 80% good, is a better way to put it. Well, what happens is they say, okay, well, we can put that in a 3080. Well, the 3080 at $699, although a lot of people thought that was a little expensive, especially for the performance that we gained, that was a really good card. That was a great card. That was almost as good as the 1080 Ti back from the Pascal generation for $699 back then. I mean, I'm not saying it was quite as good. It only had 10 gigs of RAM, and we're talking about 4 years later at the time. but especially as wages have risen, things have gotten more expensive. That was a excellent card that I could recommend to anybody. Anybody that was buying in that price class. You know, everybody don't have $700 to spend on a video card, which is part of the problem with all of the stuff that we've been talking about tonight and what's so disgusting about NVIDIA pricing the average consumer out of gaming, in my opinion. And if they do give them something they can afford, it's just subpar. The generation on generation gains not where it should be. So with that being said, guys, you know, $699. They were selling a 102 die that was roughly about about 20% cut down. So it's about 80% of the die. Now they're selling that for $699. Whereas they're also using the better quality dies in the 3090 at launch, and the very bottom that you ever got one of these cards for, like a Founders Edition, for most of the life cycle. I'm not talking about the end here, guys, where all the prices crashed, Ethereum died, or Ethereum was on the way out, and the economy was going down, so much stuff was going on, and the prices crashed. But for most of the life cycle of these GPUs, I would say at least 65 to 70%. The prices were absolutely insane. So they're using that same die, just a cut down version in the 3080. They're using the same die in the 3090, and they're selling that for $14.99 versus $6.99. So you can see why, even though Samsung's process, in my opinion, kind of sucked, the 8 nanometer process that they call it 8N. Even though that kind of sucked, I would assume as the process matured, you know, going through the life cycle of these cards, that they got better and better yields. So they probably didn't have that many cards that were, you know, only 80% good. Most of the cards probably had more of the chip that was good than that. So NVIDIA looks at it like, okay, well, we've already talked people into thinking paying $1,500 for a graphics card is normal. So why would we want to put it in a RTX 3080? And that's why it seemed like this generation there was more 3090s sold, or more enthusiast class cards sold than ever before, because when the shortages hit us, I mean, people were just buying anything they can get their hands on. I paid an amount of money that I'm almost disgusted to say in this video for my RTX 3090, and now I'm like, why did I even do that? I'm so thankful that I got it, so thankful, and I enjoyed it, so that's why I'm not really that upset about it. But it just sucks for the average consumer, which I am. I'm a consumer just like each and every one of y'all, and that's the main point I wanted to make about this video. Now, one of the things we need to talk about this card is the MSRP is $11.99 for the 4080 16 gig. Now, if even though the die is smaller, the performance looks to be pretty impressive. The part that don't make it impressive is the price. It don't matter how impressive the performance is, if the price is so high, it just doesn't matter anymore. And if I'm gauging these estimates right, we really won't know until reviews get here, because NVIDIA, the charts that they gave us weren't all that useful this generation. You should always wait for third-party reviews, just as most honest people will tell you. But sometimes you can gauge a lot of performance from the manufacturer's performance charts, such as NVIDIA, Intel, and AMD. It just all depends on the time and the situation. With that being said, these cards, I believe, will probably perform about 25 to 35% stronger than a 3090 Ti. I'm going to say 25 to 30 most likely. We'll try to lean on 30. Let's just say it performs 30% stronger than the 3090 Ti. Well, you could just get a 3090 Ti for $1,000. They are breaking out $1,199 as the starting price for this card. So here's what's going to happen. When these cards launch, I can almost guarantee the Newegg probably going to do their shuffle again. Amazon, the bots are going to go absolutely nuts. And this is here in the U.S. Best Buy, I don't know what they're going to do. Hopefully they will be some kind of hope this generation. I know most of you probably know about the Total Tech membership, but they try to get people to pay $200 in. It's basically a $200 paywall to get a better chance of buying a graphics card, which is also absolutely disgusting. Business is business at the end of the day, and if you can get people to pay it, why not get them to pay it if people are crazy enough to pay it? But at the end of the day, hopefully we're not going to have to worry about all that craziness this generation. Now, as most of you know, or if some of you don't, what usually happens with each generation every time graphics cards launch. So whether it be AMD and especially NVIDIA, a lot of the partners say that we're going to just use the 4090 for example. You can go on Newegg right now and find multiple cards for $15.99, which is the MSRP of those cards. But if you look real closely, like there is a Asus TUF Gaming for $15.99, and then there is a Asus TUF Gaming OC that is $17.99. Both of those are 4090s. The only difference is one is slightly overclocked, and the one that is slightly overclocked is going to be the one that's sold throughout most of the life cycle. At least that's how it's always been. It basically costs them nothing else to make that card. It's a small overclock, but what they basically do, MSI, Asus, Gigabyte, EVGA formerly, basically all the partners, they will release a certain number of cards on launch day that most of us can't get our hands on, and they will say, see, we launched some cards at the MSRP, and then after that all of the other cards will be sold at a slight to substantial premium depending on what tier card you're buying over the MSRP. Now, hopefully with this card, the true RTX 4080, the 16 gig they're calling it, hopefully the price will be $11.99 and under, because what I believe will end up happening is we are going into a recession. The economy is terrible right now. Interest rates are rising. It is literally getting worse and worse every day. Inflation is totally out of control, and I do not think, and especially with Ethereum gone, I do not think people have the money to spend on graphics cards. At least most people don't. You know, I don't even have the money to spend the money that I have on computer parts. I just make dumb decisions because I love these products. It's not smart for me to buy all these products. I love them. I love testing them. I love talking to you guys about them, and that's why I'm doing this YouTube channel. So hopefully I can turn this thing into a job, because I love doing it, and it's my true passion. And it's just really unfeasible to spend all the money that I spend on graphics cards, computer parts, thousands and thousands of dollars. 90% of the, 95 or 99% of the population probably is not going to do that, of the people that buy computer parts, nor should they. It's not a smart decision. So hopefully what happens this time, NVIDIA has to eat some truly humble pie on these egregious prices, because that's exactly what they are. Don't let nobody tell you different. And I'm a guy that always don't mind paying a little premium for a product that performs excellent. I'm kind of one of the guys that always goes after the very high-end product, the product that you shouldn't go after, but I still go after it because I love chasing the bleeding edge of performance. And hopefully, though, NVIDIA will have to eat some of that humble pie, because I just do not believe that people are going to gob these graphics cards up like they were before. Before, there was a huge part of these graphics cards that were being sold to miners. Ethereum mining was so huge in the last 2 years. I was making $20 a day on a 3090, a 3080, and a 2080 Ti put together. And you just do the math on that, how fast you can make money, guys. So anybody was buying them. Well, not only is Ethereum gone as far as a GPU mineable coin, the economy is in absolute disarray right now. So I just don't see it being a big problem this generation. I think things will come back in stock quickly, even if the first batch of the cards comes out. And all we can do is hope that NVIDIA eats some humble pie. And if I could see this card, for like $8.99, $9.99 for the true 4080, the true RTX 4080, I think that would be a pretty fair ask. That wouldn't be too bad for somebody buying a high-end card. It's still a lot of money. Most people don't have that much money to spend on graphics cards, and that's what really upsets me about all this, because I work with a lot of people, especially kids. I love working with kids where I can get them into a better gaming PC where they can learn, school on, you can do anything on a PC. And I love getting them into better PCs, and every single year it's becoming harder and harder for me to do that, because they are trying to take the low-end buyer or the reasonable buyer out of the market. And like I said, $899 or $1,000 for the true 4080 isn't a good price or anything, but it just wouldn't be that egregious. So hopefully NVIDIA eats humble pie, these prices come down, and that's about all we got to say about the true 4080. Now let's talk about, for a few minutes, guys, I know this video has been long, let's talk about what I'm so excited about, what is launching on October the 12th, the RTX 4090 the card that we have been, so many of us have been waiting for so long. I don't think that will stay out of stock that long. That's the only card that's not priced that egregious, just because it has so much VRAM. It's great for creators. It's great for anybody on the bleeding edge of gaming that's also a creator. Any of that stuff, it's still a lot of money, and no, I'm not saying it's worth the price. Nvidia has tried to pawn us along by, you know, going from $699 from the flagship with the 10 series to 1080 Ti to going to $1199 for the flagship with the 2080 Ti, and people accepted it, and people that bought it, and they pushed it a little bit further to the next generation. Well, now things are so bad, I can guarantee you, especially after they launched the 3090 Ti at $1,999, almost $2,000. Well, yeah, $2,000. I can assure you that they were planning to launch the 4090 at least a lot closer to that, and see how much more performance this is over the RTX 3090 Ti, and we're giving you all this performance for $200 less. Well, the market is so bad, even they knew they couldn't get away with it. That's what really stuns me about the lower end cards and how high they are priced. But with all that rambling done, now let's talk about the RTX 4090. So the RTX 4090, we have 16,384 CUDA cores. And guys, you know, for $1,599, I got to say, I was extremely happy that Nvidia didn't try to do, you know, anything crazy with this price. You know, even though we shouldn't be happy about this high price, you know, after, you know, worrying about what they could possibly do, because the economy and stuff wasn't that good when they launched the 3090 Ti. They launched it at $2,000, and it did not go very well for them. The first few cars may have sold out in some places. It, you know, day by day, week by week, and especially within a few months, it was already down to what the 3090 was selling for at about MSRP, and a few more months it was down to $1,000. So that it backfired into a total disaster for them. So I am very glad that they did not shoot for the moon and try to charge us $2,000 for this RTX 4090. Now, the partner cards, here's the thing I wanted to talk about. I talked about it a little bit in the last segment when I was rambling a little bit. But, you know, $1,599 is the starting price. Well, there is a decent amount of cards on Newegg that's pre-listed for $1,599. But like I said, most of those cards, unless they don't sell well, if they don't sell well, then all bets are off, and they will have to lower the prices to get them to move off the shelves. And that's just all there is to it, supply and demand. If the demand is not there, the prices will get lowered. That's what we have been seeing with graphics cards over the past 3 months, and it's been great for anybody that had been holding out. Now, with that being said, like I said, most of those cards are not going to be there for $1,599 if they sell well. They're going to sell, say, Asus, MSI, Gigabyte. Everybody sends Newegg 500 cards at MSRP. Well, all of those cards sell out, and then from now on, they're basically only going to ship the OC models, which MSI's was actually only priced at their, like, Gaming X Trio is $1,649 instead of $1,599. And then you have Asus with the tough RTX 4090, which is $200 more. Asus is like the premium brand now. EVGA is gone. And then you have the Asus ROG Strix card that I want so badly, and so many people, so many enthusiast class buyers that were buying EVGA cards like I have been for many generations. I also love Asus cards. I don't have any currently, but I do love those cards just as good. It's just sometimes they're a little more, they're harder to get your hands on in the US than the EVGA cards were. EVGA is gone. Rip EVGA. We all love them so much, and hopefully a lot of the newcomers that meet me and meet this channel down the road can really see the passion that EVGA had for this industry, and that's why so many people loved them. You can call us shields if you want to, but they were just so good to their so good to the customer in the most part. And I know they're a huge company. There's going to be somebody commenting in the videos saying EVGA ripped me off. Well, when you sell millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars of graphics cards, of course there's going to be a few unhappy customers. But compared to a lot of the other companies out there, EVGA always try to make things right. And so many of us, you know, had a soft spot for them. It's really sad that they're gone this generation. We're not going to be seeing the Kingpin cards. It just really sucks. So the Asus Strix ROG RTX 4090 is priced at $1999. And yes, if y'all can do math, which I know 99.9% of y'all can, that is $400 more than the MSRP. $400 right off of Jump Street. Now, it is an extremely premium card. I'm very excited about it, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. But that still doesn't change the fact that it's $400 over MSRP. So, as I said before, guys, we will see what happens with the pricing. Hopefully, even with the RTX 4090s, hopefully the first batch of cards sell out, or hopefully they're all readily available on shelves. But I would just be really surprised if they didn't sell the first batch out like they've done for so many generations in a row. So hopefully that doesn't even happen. Hopefully anybody who has the money and can afford to buy one can go in the store or order one off of Newegg, Amazon, and walk in a Micro Center, wherever you buy your graphics card from. Hopefully you can do that. So with the pricing and all that good stuff out of the way, I am truly excited about the card. What I am expecting from this card is anywhere between 60 and 80% more performance and raster performance, and probably on average probably about double the performance if you're using ray tracing, especially heavy ray tracing settings, versus the 3090 or 3090 Ti. So I am very, very, very excited for this card. Most of you that see this video, hopefully a lot of you are still watching this video. We're very deep into the video now, but I am an absolute sucker for ray tracing. I love ray tracing. I'm not much of a competitive gamer. I love building insanely powerful PCs. I love playing ray trace games and really showing off what all the technology can do. That's part of my passion. I love diving deep into architectures and stuff. So I really get in. I kind of shield a little bit on the ray tracing side. I don't talk about it that much because I know there's a lot of people that don't care about it. So many people that will probably watch this video are competitive gamers. There's so many of them these days. But with that being said, I am extremely excited for the RTX 4090. One quick note I do want to say before we start to wrap this video up is I am expecting the RTX 4090 Ti. Now, there is one thing that could stop them from releasing that card, is if this generation just sells very poorly, even though, like, I think the 4090 probably will do pretty decent. And the reason I say that is because most of the people, not like me, because most people like me don't buy RTX 4090s. Most of the people that buy those cards are really, borderline wealthy, and they don't ever have any financial worries. Most of those people are probably still all right and will probably want to upgrade. If they don't upgrade every generation, they probably definitely upgrade every other generation. So I think that card will do pretty good, especially at the price point. The two other cards, I don't see them selling very well. I think if you're going to spend $1,200 or $1,300 on the true RTX 4080, why not just go get so much more of a powerful card for $300 or $400 more? My God, cut some grass, sell some lemonade, do something. I mean, because the discrepancy in CUDA cores and performance, overall performance, you got like 9,700 and some change CUDA cores against 16,384 CUDA cores. So that is just a massive discrepancy, and it's literally only $400 cheaper, and that's at MSRP, like we've already talked about, guys. So I do think they will launch a RTX 4090 Ti, but if the cards don't sell well, they might just cancel the whole thing altogether, because we don't know how this generation is going to go for NVIDIA. It could be an absolute disaster because of the economy. The economy here in the U.S. is literally getting worse every single day, mostly because one of the biggest factors is inflation. I don't know if you guys watch the news or whatever, but no matter what anybody tells you, anybody that's working hard in the United States, trying to support a family, trying to support their hobbies and do all the things they love in life, will tell you so many things that we buy have literally doubled in price, especially our everyday essentials in the past year or year and a half, 2 years max, literally doubled in price. So we'll see how this generation goes for NVIDIA. That I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen. We will just have to wait and see. But thank each and every one of y'all for watching this video. It's been a long video. I know I've done a lot of rambling. I was had a lot of emotional opinions about the prices that they launched for these cards, and I've never, even though I'm kind of new to YouTube, I've never got that upset about the pricing. But it's finally gotten to a point where it's really getting ridiculous, and it's almost like they're pricing the everyday consumer out of the PC gaming market, and that's the very people that built the company of Nvidia. So, you know, that sucks really bad. But if there's anybody who is watching this video who is not subscribed to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, drop a like, comment, do all that good YouTube stuff. We appreciate each and every one of y'all so much, and we will see y'all soon. Thanks again.